So
Yes.
we have with us Manaswee Barua today. She's a friend. She's doing a postdoc in Yukon in the US now in bond regeneration, if what I understand correctly. She has done chemistry, bachelor's and master's, and in material science from JNCSR. She did a PhD. So to start with, I want to ask, like, why did you pivot? What sparked the
Okay.
shift from?
To be honest, the spark sort of was something that I did not consider. So in GNCSR, I was in an integrated PhD program. So in there, for my department, which is new chemistry unit, you're supposed to give two like department seminars.
Okay.
One is called a topic seminar, and the
Mm,
other is called a paper seminar.
yeah.
So for the topic seminar, that's for integrated PhD generally is a 7-year course,
Mm,
wherein the first 3 years are for your masters.
mm.
So the topic seminar will be on the third year. And the
Okay. Yeah.
idea behind the topic seminar is that you have to choose a research topic which is not related to the field that you're working in.
Mm.
Now, that is something that not many people follow to the dot,
Yeah.
but my PI, being himself, he got all creative. And
Yeah.
actually, he is the person who chose tissue engineering for me.
Okay.
So this is something like he liked to choose the topics on his own,
Mm,
just to
mm.
make sure that we don't choose something which is easy for us.
Yeah.
That was the main idea. So, anyways, I remember, so I'm still in my master's, right? When I first saw tissue engineering, I'm like, why? Why? People are giving in, like I said, it is supposed to be in something which is not exactly related to your work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not everybody follows it to the dot. So
Yeah.
maybe it's not directly, but it's something like an application of your work. So that's how many people like to approach it.
Yeah.
Not Professor Rao. He chose tissue engineering for me. And
Yeah.
although very reluctantly, I started because it's not a choice after a point. He said, no, no, it's very interesting. Around that point, only he had come back, I think, from a seminar or something from US, wherein
Mm.
probably he heard like talks about
Okay.
tissue
Okay. Okay.
engineering,
Okay.
which he found interesting. He's like, okay, this is probably something you should consider.
Yeah.
We're like, fine. Now it's not like it's a choice at that point. So we start preparing for it. And slowly, in the beginning, obviously everything is very different. And
Yeah.
understanding even the terminologies and everything is difficult. But slowly things started getting interesting.
Mm.
And finally, the seminar went really well also. Professor Rao enjoyed it also. There were many people from other departments who came in and told me, it was really nice.
Yeah.
It was really, and I
I
enjoyed it.
remember you. But
Yes, yes.
yeah.
So, okay. So the whole process, the whole because you had to understand the basics of it to make people understand. So there are a lot of free MIT courseware that's available. So I
Mm-hmm.
did attend a lot of courses and
Mm.
all, some lectures here and there. So I found the whole thing very interesting, and I
Mm.
could see that okay, this is something wherein we can take my field of expertise, because tissue engineering does require a material science expertise. That's
Okay.
one of the more things, like you need, say, cell biology, you need animal studies, but you also need a material, because you need a scaffold to build
Yeah.
your material.
Yeah.
So that's also one of the expertises that you look forward for.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, okay, I didn't think much about it, but I'm like, okay, fine, if possible. So I was still a master student. Come on, I had dreams in my life and everything. I was like, fine, if possible, I will consider, like, around postdoc or something
Yeah.
like this. Because I was in an integrated PhD program. So my project for my PhD is also more or less, I know at least the direction. So
Mm-hmm.
tissue engineering is not happening there. It's
Yeah.
like, I will so keep it under the carpet sort of a situation. Okay, I'll think about it later on. Sorts.
Yeah.
Okay. Then nothing happened. Then I think around COVID, I
Mm,
know COVID has been difficult for a lot of people. There have
mm,
been a lot of loss and everything. But that sort of gave us a sort of a pause button in our lives
mm.
also.
Yeah,
Gave us because you can, go away from the daily. Because when you are in a lab environment on a day-to-day basis, there's so much that needs to be done on a regular basis. And
yeah,
readings to be done. That there are things you are working on, there are things that don't work out and all.
yeah,
It's so, like, it's so chaotic at that point, so you
yeah,
don't get that peace of mind to, like, come out of it and think.
yeah,
COVID was a blessing in that sense because it gave you a time to think about, okay, what do you want to do,
yeah,
or is it? So around COVID, I remember we went home for some 3 months or something because the institute had to be closed down
yeah,
during
yeah, yeah.
first lockdown.
Mm.
So at that point, like, I spent almost those 3 months reading. Like, I picked up fiction, I picked up non-fiction, read a lot of history and all.
Yeah.
That's something I used to do as a kid, but
Yeah,
when
yeah, yeah. We
undergrads
have
and
all back
masters.
into the world of books.
Yes, so it was fun and all, but that I also did a lot of thinking, not much, but at that point I'm like, okay, you finally, even COVID was the time when you went into the zone of, okay, life is precious, maybe try new things
Yeah,
with life and stuff like that.
yeah,
So at that point, okay, I told myself, okay, if I finish my PhD, and okay, before I say this, and for anybody who has now done a PhD, during your PhD, you go through multiple phases where you're like, am I even eligible to finish this thing?
yeah,
Am I even good enough to, do this? Will this project ever get over?
yeah,
Will there ever be an end to that thing? So what I told myself was around that time was, okay, if I can finish my PhD in my 20s,
yeah,
I will consider giving at least 2 or 3 years to tissue engineering. I will
yeah,
at least, people might not want to take me,
yeah,
but let me at least give it a try to apply to a place wherein they are doing tissue engineering.
yeah,
I'll give it a try. I'll give it a fair shot if
yeah.
I finish my PhD in my 20s.
Mm,
That's got nothing to do with 20s or 30s or anything. That was my thing was, if I'm in a headspace where I'm still want to learn a lot more,
yeah,
then I will consider. But
yeah.
this is something I made another decision in 2020.
Hmm.
Then, okay, then that was the time when we were around like third, fourth year of our PhD.
Yeah.
So we were not exactly in the end, but we are towards it.
Mm,
So by the end of 2020 or 2021, life became a lot chaotic where you're wrapping up stuff, you're trying to finish your projects.
yeah.
Towards the end of 2021 was when, like, most of my projects were getting wrapped up. I was starting to write the papers, finishing the
Mm-hmm.
thesis and all. And by 22, like, by the time I wrote my thesis, so in GNCSR we have our colloquium.
Mm,
Then after that's and like a department thing,
mm,
interdepartment actually.
yeah.
Then you have your thesis submission. So in
Mm,
the colloquium, if anybody has anything to say about on an institution level regarding your work, like, okay,
yeah.
how about consider this thing or that thing, people will come forward with those things.
Mm,
Then you finish your thesis, submit it, then the thesis revision come and then you defend.
yeah.
Till the time I finished my thesis, I never went back to the tissue engineering thing.
Mm,
Okay. Even after thesis submission, I went home, I came back. Then that's the time I started looking for like postdoc positions.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Okay. I remember it was around 2022, May, around.
Mm,
Around that time, one thing I noticed that, okay, like whenever I'll open a university website and start looking for, faculties, I will start with the material science people or the
mm,
catalysis people,
mm.
which is supposed to, or optoelectronics, which is supposed to be the field that I should be interested in. But I will sort of gravitate towards the biomaterials or
Yeah.
the tissue engineering or cell, delivery people and stuff like that. And then it went on for some 2, 3 weeks, and I'm like, okay, maybe we should rethink this. But it was scary also.
Yeah. Yeah, I can
What?
imagine. Yeah.
So the first person I remember, so me and my friend Monis, both of us were graduating from the same lab at the same time.
Mm,
So our first senior, Anand Roy.
mm,
So one day we were like, okay, we'll call Anand up in a
mm,
group call and we'll
mm,
ask him, okay, how to apply and stuff like
mm,
that.
mm, mm,
Okay, so he was telling us, okay, this is how you look for a lab. This is how you will apply. This is how you will, this is what the application will look
mm,
through. What should you write in your letter? What should your CV look like? And all of that.
mm,
I remember it was in that phone call where I gathered myself and I had asked him, okay, Anand Bhaiya, what if I want to do, something like this? This
mm,
is what I feel like. What do you think? The good thing was, he said, it's very nice. And if you feel like that,
mm.
maybe you should give it a shot.
Yeah.
It's not as difficult as you think it is. And interestingly, even he has changed his field a little
Oh,
at least.
yeah.
Quite, even he was not working on something that he did in his PhD. He's like,
Yeah.
see, even I changed my field a little. And it is interesting. And it's not something like, oh, it's not doable or something.
Mm, 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 mm.
Give it a thought. Give it a thought, read about it, and see if you find it interesting.
Yeah.
And if you still do, then maybe you can pursue it. It shouldn't be that difficult.
Yeah.
So I did the same thing. I
Mm,
discussed a little with Monis also, who was in that call and everything. The next person I think I contacted was Professor Jayanta Haldar from GNCSR
mm.
because he worked on
Yeah.
biomaterials and was
Yeah.
very friendly. So it was the person who was easier to talk to and everything. So like, although he's friendly enough that you can, knock on his door and just pop up in his office and all, but still this time I made a official thing like, sir, I need to discuss something and all of that. He got he got almost got happened. And he's like, okay, fine, this day, this time, come over,
Yeah.
stuff like that. And I told him the same thing. He was so excited. I have never seen somebody getting this excited because the thing is, he also made his chemistry to sort of a chemistry lab to biolab transition after his PhD, also, which
Yeah.
I did not consider at that point. All excited. He's like, yeah, it's very nice. It's like he's like, yeah, it's not the most easiest of switches,
Yeah.
but it's not like it's not undoable or anything.
Uh,
These kind I went through these kind of experience, but if you really like it, maybe this is something you should pursue it and stuff like.
mm.
So I was all energized and everything that I was still a little scared to approach my PI, but after a week around after this, I finally went to him because he will eventually ask, right, what's your plan?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I told him that, I want to go and do something like tissue engineering or something.
Mm.
And I remember telling this to Professor Rao, and he looked at me and he smiled. He's like, okay, fine. Look at the professors whose work you like and bring it. We'll find somebody whom, you can have a nice time with.
Mm.
I never thought it will be this easy. I was just in this, all of these things happened, I think, within a month or so.
Yeah.
And throughout this time, I was just amazed that nobody asked me, why.
Yeah.
Neither Professor Haldar nor Professor Rao, nobody asked me, why are you, considering even
Yeah.
doing
I think that
something
is
like
one thing that like people when we do PhD, I think the professors who are like who have seen people going through PhD, they're like, okay, if they can finish this, like maybe they will be fine in any other field. They just have to learn.
No, but later on, I remember when I was leaving GNCS, and you meet people, right? When I was
Yeah.
meeting many other faculties, and I was telling them, okay, I'm leaving.
Mm.
You're like, okay, it's your final, like giving sweets bye bye kind of a
Ah, ha,
situation.
ha, ha.
And then they're like, okay, in whose lab are you going? Because more or less, for the materials people, everybody's work. So at least okay, what are
Yeah.
they working
Yeah.
on? Like that. I'm like, this person, they're like, oh. I was like, no, but he's a surgeon. He is doing, tissue regeneration and regenerative. They're like, how? Just actually, many people, thankfully, it was after I have got my
Yeah,
postdoc
after you've
position.
decided that
So
this is
I was
not
like,
going.
Yeah, so I could say like, no, they were eager enough to take me, I guess. So that was,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
that's
tell
kind of
me what you do.
what I do. Oh, I do a lot of things.
Yeah.
So my project is towards bone regeneration.
Mm.
So bone regeneration will technically be so bone in general, like many other parts of the body, can regenerate on its own.
Mm.
Like a bone fracture heals on its own. So
Yeah.
if it
Right.
is beyond a particular size that the bone cannot regenerate on its own, it's
Mm.
clinically called the critical size.
Mm.
So beyond that, clinically, till now, there's no like treatment, like universal treatment kind of thing, which always works. And
Okay.
that's why we are trying to find a treatment which can be translated to the clinic,
Okay.
right? Which
Mm.
can help with that. So, because the current methods which are used have their own, like, demerits and
Mm.
everything. So
Mm.
the
Mm.
idea is that you have your bone and
Mm.
there is a gap in it. The gap
Mm.
can be because say, you had a um, infection or something. You had,
Mm.
say, an accident where some part of it had to be removed because it had broken in a very uneasy manner or something like that.
Mm.
Now you empty out that space and then you add a filler, a sort of a graft into it.
Okay.
So the idea with the graft is the graft, whatever it contains of, it should fill the gap, stabilize the bone in
Mm.
whatever way it should,
Mm.
and then help the bone heal itself,
Okay.
become one entity from being those parts,
Okay.
basically.
Okay.
Okay. So, what if you consider from the point of view of what I do?
Mm.
Like you said, I'm a material scientist.
Yeah.
So, my idea is to make a bone graft in
Mm-hmm.
using a polymer material. So, we
Okay.
work with a polymer called polyphosphazine, which I
Mm.
synthesize in lab,
Mm.
and we see to it that it's has the mechanical properties that are required for being in the bone.
Okay.
And then the idea is it should have the mechanical properties and it should also be, it should be feasibly used in a living system. So for that,
Mm-hmm. Like it is not like
toxic or
toxic
anything.
and like it won't be resisted by the body and so on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So for that, you will do your cell studies and all with different kinds of cell lines, with, with sometimes cells extracted from the animal as well, sometimes with cell lines, and you will also study with stem cells and everything. All of these to understand different properties of the material. And
Mm-hmm.
finally, when you are satisfied that, okay, this will not harm and this is showing a potential of helping, that's
Mm.
when you start put that mold it into the shape of the bone and then put it in the animal, and then
Mm-mm.
you will study over the few months how it helps or doesn't help.
Okay.
And for it to be, help now, when I say it is something that needs to help with bone regeneration, it means it should have some factors, like,
Mm.
which will, sort of like say give chemical signals or something which
Okay,
will
okay. Yeah. Ha, ha, ha.
help with the regeneration process. It's
Mm.
not just a piece of metal stuck in that, right? You
Ah.
want it to be something that will also tell the bone that, okay, you need to grow,
Okay,
promote
okay,
it.
okay.
So when we like synthesize the polymer, we also design those things. We start
Mm-hmm.
introduce different groups in it, we blend it and everything, so that whatever the final graph we make could be, you know, the terms that are used is like osteogenic, osteoconductive, those kind of things.
Okay,
Like it
okay, okay.
promotes bone regeneration, sort of.
Okay, 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 okay. Wow. I'm understanding what you're doing right now.
Yeah.
So, uh, so, uh, you make this material exactly how it should fit in the, uh,
So, yeah, so there are two things. One is synthesis. We do synthesis also. You make the whole material. Next
mm,
thing is fabrication of the graph. That
mm,
is, you make it in the dimensions of what of the animal model that you will be
mm, mm,
studying
mm, mm,
and
mm,
all of that. Yeah.
okay, okay. So, how did like the, your experience in material science and research, all of that, like got adapted here?
Okay. So generally, okay, when a PI hires a postdoc,
Mm,
it's basically like getting a particular expertise into the
mm,
lab,
mm,
right? So say for example, currently in the lab that I work in, I am one of the postdocs.
mm,
Mine is materials chemistry background.
mm,
There
mm,
is somebody who comes from cell biology background, and there's
mm,
somebody who comes from orthopedic surgery background.
mm,
So, so basically, you have different kinds of expertises
mm,
that
mm,
you collect in the lab, and you
mm,
look at, like everybody has their own individual projects. But
mm,
as and when you need any help with designing or anything, that is when it can help.
mm, mm, mm,
As
mm,
far as, okay, as far as, so amongst the many projects that's there in the lab, mine is the main one which focuses on synthesis. For most
mm,
people, it's the fabrication of the graph part,
mm, mm,
or they have like synthetic collaborators.
mm,
For me, because we need to make this material from scratch, and we
mm,
design it, adding different groups into it and everything.
mm,
That's where my materials chemistry background comes from,
mm.
because that's where the synthesis is purely what we have been trained for
Yeah,
all
yeah.
the masters and PhD. Although the nature of the material and everything is different,
Mm,
the basic idea, the basic training still helps
mm, mm,
in
mm.
the whole process. So
Okay,
yeah,
okay. And do you like you also do a characterization techniques and
yeah,
everything?
yes, yes.
Yeah.
So it's yeah. So in this lab, the thing is, say for example, my project is like my project, so I will have to take care of the synthesis, characterization, fabrication, and everything. Then
Mm,
I'll also take care of the in vitro part and all the experiments there, and the in vivo part also.
mm,
I'll be the one in charge. I can get help from other people
mm,
also.
mm, mm, mm,
Okay,
mm.
there'll be people helping me with different aspects of the project,
Yeah,
but
okay,
I'll be
okay.
the one who will be responsible for the project. I'll
Yeah.
decide, okay, whether we need to do XRD for this, or whether
Mm,
we need to do NMR for this, or what information will NMR of this material at this stage give me.
mm, nice. Okay, so I think there will be a public demand on me asking you this. How was it
Okay.
working with CNR?
It was really nice. It
So
was really
what do you think like the all the experience you are like second last, third last student of
I'm
his?
second last.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he has all these experiences that has like, you know.
I think if you ask me for one thing to take from him, absolutely one thing,
Mm,
which I really feel for us, especially as young researchers today, is,
mm,
when we saw him, he had practically spent like around 60 years
mm,
in science research and everything.
yeah.
But the amount of excitement he has, even at that stage, when
Yeah.
he sees an interesting results, reads an interesting paper or anything, or the discussion, like, when you tell him, okay, we could see this, the brightness you see in the screens. That's
Yeah.
something like many a times I feel I don't see it in many young faculties also.
Yeah.
That, like, it's not like you have sacrificed your life to science. You've
Mm,
lived your life with science. And
yeah.
that's a very, very, very beautiful thing if you consider the profession we are in, because you have to give in so much into your work, like even at the time when you're outside of the lab, also,
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
brain, like I remember, like there'll be times when I'm in the shower and I'll think of, oh, maybe I can do this thing, then I can probably connect these and stuff like. So you're never like out and out of it. Even when you're discussing, say, politics or something, also you always have this thing in the back of your mind. And so in that case, like seeing somebody who still enjoys it to this extent
Yeah.
is very
Yeah.
beautiful for me.
Yeah.
And he has been a really sweet mentor,
Mm,
like really sweet.
yeah.
He has treated us like really respectfully and really well. So
Yeah.
yeah, definitely a very good experience.
And
And even when, just one last thing,
yeah, sure,
even
sure.
when we apply for, our postdocs
Mm,
also. So his idea is, okay, like I said, I'm applying in something absolutely different. Even the person who graduated after me, he applied in something absolutely different
Mm.
from what we have been doing.
Mm.
Right? So generally his idea is, okay, fine, make a list
Mm.
of people of the kind of work you're interested in and of the people.
Mm.
Okay? We'll give him a list and he will check it. So the his main idea is we choose the kind of science we want to do, but he
Mm.
just wants to cross-check that the person is good because a good scientist might
Oh,
not
that is
always
very
be
sweet.
a good person. Yeah. So I remember in one of, I think it was my senior Monas's time also, or somebody before him, I don't know.
Mm.
There was somebody in a very prestigious university in US who's like one of the big shots in the field, and he
Mm.
was like, okay, I want to apply here and everything.
Mm.
And Professor Rao was like, he's a terrible guy. Don't go there. He will make you really sad or something like that.
Oh,
Like if he like obviously he might not know everybody, especially because after COVID he hasn't been traveling that much.
yeah,
But
yeah.
before that, especially when he was traveling a lot and all.
Mm.
So you will go for many conferences and meetings and all. So you will see the work of different people and then you will interact with them also.
Yeah,
So if he says that, okay, this is a very nice guy, so that means they'll be like, decent people, nice
yeah.
people, be nice to you and stuff like that. And when you are in a lab, that is also a very important factor. And many a times it becomes very difficult to understand how will you know that until and unless
Yeah,
you are there.
yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah, that is very actually very, I find it very sweet. And I also think, like, from my experience, I feel like all most of the young faculties, when they listen to science or read something new, or like find a new paper, find a new discussion, most of they concentrate on how this can be useful for their work.
yeah,
Like, yeah, but this the previous generation has a different approach. They are just excited about the work, or like, oh, this is like an interesting topic, rather than like how I can use it for, like, I mean, it's absolutely fine, like, but
yeah.
having only interest for your own research is like little,
I
yeah,
think it might just be the kind of people they are in.
yeah, that's also true.
Rather than like rather than saying like, old people are like this, new people. Someone is just, it's just like their approach to science
Hmm.
and why you want to. And it's also about, in the end of the day, it's your personal decision also at some point, right? The kind of researcher or the kind of scientist you want to be.
Yeah,
What are your priorities? What are the things that you will consider to be successful and stuff
yeah,
like that.
true, 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 true.
Like with Professor Rao, I remember there was a senior who had
Hmm.
once told us that, she had to, I think, get a consultation with a super specialist or something.
Hmm.
And it's like you tell him, he will help you get that. He'll like,
Hmm.
okay, let's see if we can get it early, call a few
Hmm.
people up and stuff like. I remember even in my case when I was sick first quite, I used to get sick quite a lot during, especially during my early years in my masters. And I once remember he saying, oh, I use this thing. If it is dust allergy, try using it. He got me a bottle and stuff like that. It's those like simple things, but it's like
Yeah,
some actually paying attention. Somebody is actually like, if he takes you as a student, he's
yeah,
taking your responsibility.
yeah.
He'll see to it that you're taken care of till the end sorts.
Yeah,
During COVID, when he was not around, he will see to it that, we have what we need. If we need anything, we can at least approach and stuff like that. So that
yeah,
is something, yes, that's
nice.
very nice.
Yeah. And how is the work culture different here? How is the mentorship different? How is being a postdoc different?
As a postdoc, I think you, because of your experience, you're supposed to be more in command with your work,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Like you have to be more independent than everything. You have more say in your project and how it will go and design it and stuff
Yeah.
like that. More responsibility and stuff like that. But one thing with both the places that I've worked before and the place I'm working with right now is both the places give you a lot of independence with your work,
Mm.
which might not be the case in many other labs also.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's a different, every lab has their own
Yes, yes,
experience
yes.
kind of a thing. But for me, one thing, the common thing is independence with in both the cases.
Mm-hmm.
And you're being a postdoc, I get to just say, okay, this is why, as long as I can justify it, as long as I can say, okay, give it a shot, sort of a thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah,
And yeah, like, do you have people working with you, like in the sense, like PhD students? Are you mentoring people now?
not right now,
Mm.
but probably in this year, yes. In the
Okay.
beginning, I did have a master's student with me, but he
Mm-hmm.
graduated.
Okay.
So nobody right now, but yes, in the coming year for sure.
Yeah. Okay. So, what excites you most about the work right now?
The potential.
Mm,
Yes.
nice.
Yeah.
So,
That was
between
also one of
PhD
the
and
reasons.
postdoc, that's a big transition, no?
Yeah. So that's also one of the things, right? That's especially, say, for example, I work in a hospital at this point, technically
Mm,
speaking. So the potential of, you know, what it can lead to,
mm,
the translation and
mm.
all of that, that's what like keeps you on your toes, sort of.
Yeah. And you're more like working in the like right there where you see the application also, right?
Yeah. I remember last year for something we were doing sort of a customer survey. I think I
Mm,
talked to you about it also. At that point, also, when we were trying to explain, what we are doing or why we are doing this, also, the
mm,
excitement with which people respond to it.
mm.
Oh, if something like this comes up, like we are not sure whether we'll be able to do it. But many a times people are just happy to know, that, oh, you're doing something in that direction as
Yeah,
well.
yeah, yeah.
Like I remember last year, I think it was around September or something. We had a
Mm,
postdoctoral meeting only.
mm,
We have it once a year in Yukon.
mm,
So I was just presenting my work, and it was on bone regeneration, right? So there
mm,
was this another person. I think she's a maybe a graduate student or something, but it
mm,
was a poster session and she was there. So she was talking about her own experience, like not her sister's experience.
mm,
Like she got into an accident or something, and
mm,
she had a big defect in her bone, and
mm.
all the treatments that have happened since then. It has still, she's not in a stage where, well, it happened when the girl was like probably a teenager or something,
Okay,
and
okay.
it has still not, it has
Yeah.
changed her life completely.
Mm-hmm.
So she was talking about her own experience with all of that, and then the thing came like, oh, maybe if something like this comes up, it can potentially lead
Yeah.
to start changes in people's lives. I think
Yeah,
that's a
yeah,
very nice part in it,
yeah.
kind of.
Yeah, that is actually very nice. I mean, like to have that about your
Yeah,
work.
yeah. So
Yeah,
that's what I like most.
yeah. And yeah, so what do you want to, like, if you want to give sort of career advice to people who want to transition from one field to another after PhD, or like even like masters to PhD, like what would you say?
I sh- See, it's all about, first of all, like you said, yes, follow your dreams.
Mm,
Definitely.
mm,
I feel whatever comes, there's always something that comes very naturally to you, something you feel very close with.
mm,
And that's how, like many a times where, I feel like doing something, but I don't know what this is, kind of a situation. I
mm,
don't know why I like this thing, but I like it.
mm.
That's something like you want to do it.
Yeah.
You should never forget about, the practicality of the situation, that
Mm,
every situation comes with a price.
mm,
Like I can sit back and tell you that, okay, it's a happy transition or everything.
mm,
But even today, I go through situations where, well, I don't come from, say, the biology
mm,
or the surgery and all those backgrounds.
mm,
So I cannot like sit in my place and be like, oh, I have a PhD. I don't have to
mm.
go through this thing. No, tomorrow there'll be a master's student in lab, and and maybe they come with a biology background.
Background. Yeah.
They did that in their undergrad, so
Mm.
that person will know more about that field than
Mm.
you,
Mm.
irrespective of whether that person is an undergrad or a master's
Mm.
and you are a postdoc. So
Mm.
you have to come accept such situations.
Mm.
If there will be situations where you have to understand many a times even the basic of things, because you just didn't have that training. It will
Yeah.
take you
Yeah.
time to learn. You have to go through many of the things. We don't realize that if it's a classroom situation, life
Mm.
becomes very easy, but especially when you're in research,
Yeah.
finding out even the minutest of things takes you a lot of time
Yeah. Yeah.
figuring that out sorts. So just being mindful that yes, a switch is definitely worth it, but it
Mm.
will come with a price. You have to be brave to face that switch as well.
Mm.
So
Mm.
please don't forget that part. I
Yeah.
think one ways what this makes my switch kind of easier, I can say, not
Mm.
easier but more acceptable,
Mm.
is because we work in an interdisciplinary field.
Mm.
In an interdisciplinary field, I even remember, if I recall correctly, even in the interview that I had with my current PI, Dr. Lorenzen,
Mm.
in that, so after everything, so in the end of the interview, he was like, okay, if you have any question, then I was like, okay, what is it that, what do you guys want from me? Why do you
Mm.
want me in my lab?
Mm.
Because I was not sure whether that's a good thing to ask or not. I was just, we had a half an hour, sort of a discussion. It was not an interview. It was more of like what they are thinking, in which direction they are thinking, kind
Mm.
of a situation.
Mm.
It was a very friendly environment. So,
Mm.
me being me, I asked them, okay, what are you looking for?
Mm.
So he was like, because of your background,
Mm.
you look at a problem in a very different way, which I cannot do that.
Mm.
It's a background that, the specific, even if it's the same thing, the specifics with which you look at the problem will always be very different because your background is different from me. And
Yeah.
in interdisciplinary, that is what we want.
Mm.
We want people to look at it from a different angle and see, okay, this is the most important aspect of it. Maybe we'll try to address that part, sort of a thing.
Yeah.
So that ways the transition in a field like this might be easier
Mm.
because it's interdisciplinary. So nobody knows everything about
Yeah.
every part of the project
Yeah.
anyways.
Yeah.
Everybody's figuring it out and everybody comes with their own specific expertise, their own
Yeah.
skills that they're adding value into it. So,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
so
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. And so I also want to ask, like, you have been in a lab where for most part you were the only female, I guess.
yeah, at least in my PhD.
Yeah.
Yes.
So just like, since our platform is about like women in science, so how was that experience? How did it like, was it like challenging or?
I mean, for me, um, it wasn't, I won't call it challenging because you always find your comrades
Yeah.
there. You always find your people. Maybe because of the nature of our work, right?
Hmm.
And especially because both of us were in an integrated PhD program. So we
Hmm.
entered, basically, what that means is we entered the research lab maybe 1, 2 years before anybody doing a PhD
Yeah.
probably will enter.
Hmm.
So a little bit more experience in that ways.
Yeah.
And especially for people who are watching this and might not be for research background, when you are in a research lab, you basically spend more number of hours there
Hmm.
than you do with your friends or family or anywhere outside of it
Yeah.
sorts. So I like to look at my lab mates as siblings.
Hmm.
Like, it was not technically my decision to have you in my life, but you're very much there every single day. So
Yeah.
when you consider it from that way, it's like if it's your sibling, you don't look at it, look at him or her like, this person is like this or this person is. You're just like, okay, this person is this person. Okay.
Yeah. I
He
have to
does.
deal with it anyways.
Yeah, I will have to deal with it. So I'm not trying to like, reason it out or anything. You are this person. I will find my way around it. That's how that's my approach towards my lab mates. You
Yeah.
make some really good friends amongst them, but not everybody needs to be a friend. Some people need to be just bearable, and that's fine.
Yeah.
So regarding the girl boy situation, the ratio and everything, yes, in most parts of my PhD, I was the only girl in the lab.
Yeah.
So technically, amongst my lab mates, I was also the most pampered one. Amongst my lab mates, I'm not even considering my PI in this situation. Okay. So if any pizzas need to be brought or if anything needs to be brought, it's my decision what's coming. I get to choose which sweet comes, which thing comes, what flowers come, whatever, everything.
Yeah.
Good one also. Okay. If there's a treat, I have a say, whoever's treat it is, I have a say on where we are going and stuff like that. Even in lab, it's like, yeah, people have been really nice that ways.
Yeah.
Most parts, yeah.
Yeah. And like, how about like moving to a different country for doing research?
Yeah. I really, only after coming here, like even in India before coming here, I stayed outside home for like at least like around 9 to 10 years before
Mm,
I came here.
mm.
But still, this move was hard,
Yeah.
even after that also, because we take like in India, even if I was staying away from home, I was living in a hostel, right? I
Mm.
have food ready. I just need to be there in those particular hours to come and eat. And I
Yeah.
don't have to think who's getting the groceries, who is cooking, how it's getting cleaned and everything.
Yeah.
Even in JNCSR, like there was somebody to clean your rooms, clean your washrooms, wash your clothes. You just have to, call somebody, put your bucket. It was so easy, but you realize it only after leaving,
Yeah.
and here you have to start from scratch.
Yeah. I mean, there is electricity bill.
Yes, there is electricity bill, and like, oh, the first apartment I moved in, it was at least a shared apartment,
Mm.
so at least some things were there.
Yeah.
The next apartment I moved, that's like a completely unfurnished one. So first day, it's like, okay, you have shifted everything all alone with very little help and all of that. And
Mm.
then you have to make your bed also because you need a place to sleep. Otherwise, it's more like you need to make your chair. Otherwise, you're sitting on the floor. It's as
Yeah.
simple as that. At that point, it's a beginning. I don't even know many people around or
Yeah.
any people around, as a matter of fact. And I'm an introvert, so making a friend also takes time. But honestly speaking, it can be refreshing,
Mm.
like what I talked about, getting that space from the noise during COVID to,
Mm.
decide. I think coming here also gave me that space also. That
Mm.
space to, like it's kind of like cross-checking sorts. Okay, these are the aspects of me which I don't like. Maybe let go of them. Maybe,
Mm.
redefine. Okay, I will be this person at this point. I'll be more independent.
Yeah. And
I will
since nobody know you, you can like fully be a different person.
Yeah,
Nobody will
I
be like ask like
I
what
became a
happened?
Manaswee 2.0 version and something, although nothing to that extent, but
Yeah.
you get, it's like you're starting from scratch, can be both a good and a bad thing. Like it's everything all together. You get to
Mm.
decide and just play with your strengths, is all I can say. It will be challenging anyways. Just play with your strengths and make it work for you.
Yeah.
And don't expect a miracle from day one. Just give it time.
Yeah.
Learn to be peaceful. Learn to cook. Please learn to cook. And just learn to enjoy with yourself. So,
Please learn to cook. I will research
I
it.
didn't know how to cook. The first few months were really difficult for me. Yeah.
Yeah. But you had like some practice at home, no? But that was like more
Yeah,
desserts
but
and stuff.
that was a very, how do you say? That was a very like easy thing, right? Somebody's chopping the vegetables. You are just
Yeah.
doing this in on the top of a, you just have a karai and you're doing this. I was like, oh, it's getting darker, it's lighter. Maybe I know some of this. I had a training, but when you're sitting there, you're starting from chopping. Oh, I don't have this thing today. What will I do? It's
Yeah.
a whole different game.
Yeah.
The first few months,
Yeah.
I made really terrible food, so I know that.
Yeah, yeah. I remember like I made one paneer curry and I like took it in my like tiffin box and I'm like, I might not punish myself so much. It's not worth it. I mean, like, yes, you cooked it, but not
You
worth
know.
it.
Yeah. No, I remember there were times when in the initial months, just the thinking that, oh, I'll have to cook. Maybe I am good with bread butter or just
Yeah.
Cheerios and milk, right? Because cooking is a pain and whatever comes out won't be good also. So,
Yeah.
so that's the thing. Like you can get agitated or anxious about it, or you
Mm.
can just laugh about it, dust yourself up, and just be like, okay, that
Yeah.
happened, and just move on.
Yeah. I mean,
Your
like, if you
attitude
you
can
can choose,
make a
but like
huge difference.
you choose what you eat also. So
Yeah, I remember one of my friends saying, it's just seems like a vicious cycle. Like you go, you have to think what groceries to get. You get your groceries, you cook, you clean, and everything. And cooking for one person is such a pain. And there are tons of leftovers which are not even cooked. And then you have to go for grocery shopping again.
yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, try to find the humor in the situations if you can. That will make your life be much easier.
Yeah.
And you'll have some very, like, if people ask me about my experience of, shifting, I have such golden stories to tell them.
Yeah. We'll make another video on it, like shift.
Yes. Shit, just
Uh,
fun.
yeah.
But this reminds me even about, Viktor Frankl, right? Man's Search for Meaning, wherein he
Mhm.
writes about Holocaust and wherein he's like, in every situation, it's something, not the exact thing, but something is, it's only your attitude which you can control, not the situation.
Yeah.
So just try to control your attitude and find the humor in that.
So, who inspires you in science and generally life in general?
I don't think I'd like to take one name. I just want to stay true to myself. I won't like to say that somebody inspires me. There are
Yeah.
a lot of stories, but it need not be a scientist. It's
Mm.
the people I mean. It's like the person who inspires you in a situation is some somebody can say the smallest of things in a
Mm.
particular situation and can lift you up
Yeah.
sorts. So rather than saying something inspires me, I just hope I can be that person for myself and
Mm.
for the people around me.
I'll do very nice. And this is like our strong
Okay.
question at the end for
Oh my goodness.
okay for everybody. So, what is your dream?
My dream is to be true to myself and enjoy what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Wherever that takes me, I am good with it.
Yeah.
That's all I can. No pompous answering anyway. This is my dream. I just want to chill, relax, and have fun while doing what I love doing.
Yeah. I think we are all, and like I've been like this conversation about these things like has been happening for some time, and like I talked to Marin and I talked to like Marjan and like with Paru, all of us, like the thing that we are all keep on saying is that like like Like, we have no clue where this is going.
Even if you have the bestest clue also, still it won't work out in whatever
Yeah,
direction you thought it will. So
yeah,
just enjoy the ride.
yeah. So it's like we are just like right now, I like what I do. Let's
Yeah,
just go with that.
yeah. I
Yeah.
like what I'm doing, so let's see where it goes. And my thing is just accept and move on.
Yeah.
Just be peaceful.
Yeah.
I recently read this book by, I don't know if you like if you read with that author Adichie, the Nigerian,
I know, I know. Mm.
the Half of a Yellow Sun author.
Uh-huh. She,
Yeah, so she has.
new book is out. Yeah. I've seen that.
I
Yeah.
haven't read the new book. This
Uh,
is an old book called Americana.
okay.
Okay,
Mm,
so it has a lot of thing about Black American and history and race and all of that.
mm,
But one of the central themes of this book is where the characters find that the people, they are not able to associate with the people around them
mm,
because you're expected to feel a certain way or act a certain way or behave in a certain way or stand up for issues in a certain way
mm,
just
mm,
because it's considered woke or acceptable or something.
mm,
And the characters finally gravitate towards the feeling that I'll just be myself and see where it takes.
mm.
So that thing was something which I really liked.
Yeah. So I think that is
You're good to go.
yes.